All right, let's get right to it. The first chapter of the Bible. For most people, this chapter gets dragged into debates it was never designed to fight. Young Earth versus old Earth, science versus faith. But what if its original purpose was something far more foundational? What if it was a declaration of authority, a stake in the ground, planted in a world filled with competing gods and chaotic stories about how we all got here?
Here's our mission plan. We're going to walk through the architecture of this text in 6 parts. We'll start by moving beyond the modern debates to see God's actual blueprint. We'll break it into 2 phases, first forming the realms, and second filling them. Then we'll hit the climax with humanity's unique commission, and finally we'll see how the New Testament reveals the identity of the master builder.
So let's set the stage. For the original audience, ancient Israel, this text was an absolute bombshell. You have to remember, they were a small nation surrounded by superpowers, Egypt, Babylon, and each one had its own story about where the world came from. And those stories were filled with divine battles, warring gods, and utter chaos. Genesis 1 is the definitive, authoritative counter-narrative.
The pagan myths had gods wrestling each other for control. The sea was some kind of chaos monster to be tamed. The sun and moon were deities you had to worship. So what does Genesis 1 do? It calmly, methodically dismantles all of it. There is one God. He creates by his spoken word, not by war. And the sun, the moon, the sea, they aren't gods. They're just created things reporting for duty under his command. This is a declaration of total, undisputed sovereignty.
Okay, so let's get into the blueprint itself. The chapter opens by laying out the central problem that God's creative work is about to solve. It describes the world's initial state with 2 critical Hebrew words that set up the entire narrative. Tohu, Wabohu, formless and void. These words are key. This isn't just pretty poetry, it's the mission brief. It's the problem statement. The world was uninhabitable, a chaotic, empty, unstructured wasteland. The rest of the chapter is the methodical, 2-part solution to this exact problem. God is about to bring order to the formlessness and fullness to the emptiness. And this is where the genius of the structure really shows up. Most people read the 6 days like a simple checklist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if you do that, you miss the stunning symmetry at play here. The author has arranged the days into an elegant 2-part framework that communicates deliberate, divine order. It's an architecture of unparalleled precision. So here it is. Simple, elegant. The creation week is split into 2 parallel phases. In the first 3 days, phase 1, God solves the problem of formlessness by creating 3 distinct realms. Then, in the next 3 days, phase 2, he solves the problem of emptiness by filling those exact realms. This is God as the master architect, establishing the structure and then populating it with purpose.
Let's break down phase 1. The key actions in these first 3 days are separation and naming. God brings order by drawing boundaries. He separates light from darkness, the waters above from the waters below, the sea from the dry land. Now, in the Bible, naming something isn't just giving it a label. It's an act of authority. It's saying, I define this, I rule this.
So on day 1, he establishes the realm of time by separating light and darkness. On day 2, he establishes the realm of space by separating sky and sea. And on day 3, he establishes the realm of habitation, the land, making it ready for life. At the end of day 3, the world is perfectly formed, beautifully ordered, but still empty. The stage is set.
Now for phase 2. God has built the house, now he's going to furnish it. He's constructed the empty realms, and now he turns to fill them. And this is where that symmetry I mentioned just becomes, well, it's breathtakingly clear. Each of these next 3 days corresponds perfectly to one of the first 3.
Look at this perfect correspondence. On day 4, God fills the realm of light and time from day 1 with its rulers, the sun, moon, and stars. On day 5, he fills the sky and sea from day 2 with their inhabitants, birds and fish. And on day 6, he fills the land from day 3 with land animals and, as the absolute climax of the week, humanity. This is not a random sequence. This is a masterpiece of divine architecture. And that brings us to the absolute peak of the entire creation account. Everything, I mean everything, has been building to this moment on day 6. After forming and filling the entire cosmos, God creates something utterly unique, set apart from everything that came before it: humanity. The whole narrative shifts gears here. The language changes dramatically. For all the previous acts of creation, the formula was simple and direct, and God said, "Let there be." It was a command. But when it comes to humanity, the language becomes personal, deliberative. It signals that this is not just another creature. This is the Creator installing his representatives.
Just listen to the shift. Let us make man in our image. Notice the plurals. Now, theologians for centuries have seen this as an early whisper of the Trinity. But for the original reader, the message was unmistakable. Humanity is being created in a category all its own, fashioned according to the very nature of God himself.
And this is where one Hebrew word, Tselem, changes everything. It doesn't mean we physically look like God. In the ancient world, when a king or an emperor conquered a new province, he would set up a statue of himself, an image, a Tselem. That statue meant one thing and one thing only: I rule here. It was his proxy. It represented his authority. So to be made in God's image, that's a job description. We are his royal representatives on planet Earth.
And that job comes with a clear commission, right there in verse 28. Humanity is tasked to represent God's good rule. They are to be fruitful, filling the earth with more image bearers. They're told to subdue the earth and have dominion, which means stewarding creation, cultivating its potential, and bringing out its best, not exploiting it for selfish gain. It's a delegated authority with an immense responsibility.
But the story doesn't stop in Genesis, not by a long shot. Centuries later, the New Testament writers pick up this chapter and they see something absolutely profound. They understood that the powerful, creative force at work in the beginning actually had a name. And this shows the incredible coherence of the entire biblical story.
They don't treat Genesis 1 like ancient history. Now, they reveal it's the first act of a cosmic drama that finds its climax in one person, Jesus Christ. They take the foundational themes of Genesis, the Word, the light, the image, and they show us their ultimate fulfillment.
Think about it. What's the engine driving all of creation in Genesis 1? It's the repeated phrase, "And God said." God speaks, and reality reconfigures itself. Then the Apostle John opens his gospel, and listen to how he echoes it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. All things were made through him. John is telling us that the creative Word of God isn't a thing. It's a person, and his name is Jesus.
And in case you think that's a stretch, the Apostle Paul makes it even more direct in Colossians. He says that by Christ, all things were created. All things were created through him and for him. This reframes everything. Christ isn't plan B. He's not the cleanup crew. He is the agent and the goal of all creation from the very beginning.
So here's the bottom line. Genesis 1 is casting these massive shadows forward through history, and they all find their substance, their reality, in Jesus. Creation by a sovereign word points to Christ, who is the eternal Word. Humanity made in the image of God points to Christ, who is the perfect image of God. The first light that separated the darkness points to Christ, the true light who defeats the darkness for good. Creation reveals the blueprint, Christ completes the building.
So let's land the plane here. We get completely sidetracked when we treat this chapter as ammunition for a culture war. Its purpose was never to give us scientific data points for a debate thousands of years in the future. It's about something far more immediate, far more foundational.
The point is to anchor your identity, your purpose, your very existence in the truth of who God is and who you are. You're not an accident in a meaningless cosmos. You live in a world constructed with intention by a personal God. Your identity as his image bearer is a gift, not something you have to invent. This is the bedrock of a sane and meaningful life.
And that leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. This isn't just about ancient cosmology. It's about right now. If the same word that spoke galaxies into existence and brought order from Tohu Wabohu is offered to you as the foundation for your life, your work, your identity, is it trustworthy? That's the challenge Genesis 1 leaves every one of us with.